In this lesson, we will be reviewing the UW data inventory, who, what, and how. If you haven't already reviewed the previous lesson, we encourage you to do so before jumping into this one. After successfully completing this training, our goals are for you to be able to describe the UW data inventory and what needs to be inventoried, decide if your unit needs to participate in the data inventory, and name the system TrustArc that is being used to do the data inventory. Before we get started, I'd like to share a model of the 4 stages of competence that was developed in the 1970s by Noel Birch, based on a background theory founded by Martin M. Broadwell. In the model, a person moves through various stages of skill competence, beginning with unconscious incompetence, where you are unaware of a skill and your lack of proficiency in it. In conscious incompetence, you are aware of the skill but are not proficient, while in conscious competence, you are able to use the skill but with effort. Unconscious competence, the final stage, is when you start to perform the skill automatically. We like to share this model because we recognize that participating in the data inventory involves thinking about your work and its intersection with privacy in ways that you may not have had the opportunity to do before. You may be learning new terminology in addition to the tool we're using to build our data inventory. Wherever you are with your familiarity with privacy, the UW Privacy Office is here to help. The Privacy Office is leading the first ever UW data inventory. We are collecting information about the things we do with people's data, the tools we use to work with people's data, and the external non-UW entities that we exchange data with. While there have been inventories done in the past, this is the first one that includes business processes, systems, and third parties, focusing on personal data in one comprehensive inventory for the entire university. If you'd like to learn more about our implementation timeline for the data inventory, please review the data inventory page on the Privacy Office website. Before getting into the details, let's get a few terms defined. The Privacy Office's glossary of privacy terms provides additional details. Personal data is essentially information that can be tied to a person. We're talking about any records or information relating to an identified or identifiable natural person. Examples include name, identification numbers, location data, online identifiers, or factors specific to physical, physiological, genetic, mental, economic, cultural, or social identity or other characteristics, or other data that is identified as personally identifiable data or similar term by any applicable law. We are not talking about anonymous data as long as that data is truly anonymous and cannot be reassociated with an identifiable person. Data processing are the things that we do with personal data. Any operations performed on personal data, whether or not by automated means. Examples include collection, use, storage, sharing of data, as well as various kinds of data analytics. And in the context of this presentation, a data inventory is a centralized, standardized, and maintained inventory of the business processes, systems, and third-party relationships that involve personal data. This data inventory is collaboratively built and maintained by the Privacy Office and UW organizations and units. Throughout this presentation and others in the data inventory series, we use terminology like organization and unit, and I want to clarify what we mean when we use those terms. With the UW's financial transformation, the UW is implementing a new organizational structure to implement in certain systems. We've integrated the institutional organizational structure, or IOS, in the system we are using to conduct the data inventory, which is called TrustArc. There are 4 levels in the IOS. Level 1 is the university. Level 2 includes the campuses and UW Medicine. Level 3 includes major organizations like the College of Arts and Sciences, Academic and Student Affairs, Information Technology, and others. And level 4 includes departments. I often refer to organizations and units which I use in place of department. If your organization includes 5 or more levels, departments or units at level 5 or more will be rolled up into a level 4 department. You may be wondering if your organization or unit needs to participate. The answer is yes, if any of the following applies to your unit. If your unit uses personal data in its operations or activities. Examples of operations or activities include registration, surveys, data storage, marketing or recruitment, evaluations, and data analysis. If your unit owns or is responsible for the tools used to process personal data, and if your unit is responsible for any agreements or interactions with third parties that involve personal data. Examples include data processing agreements, reporting, and credentialing. More information about the purpose of the data inventory and how it fits into the big picture of privacy modernization at UW is available in our other trainings and on our website. But briefly put, in various privacy-related UW policies and laws, there is a requirement to document accountability and the delegation of authority. In some cases, such as the European Union's General Data Protection Regulation, or EU GDPR, there is an explicit data inventory requirement. To support units in their efforts to document accountability and manage risk, the Privacy Office adopted the TrustArc Privacy Management Platform as our centralized system that all units can have access to for free. We will use TrustArc to collaboratively build our university's data inventory, using it as a space to collect and store information, create and maintain data inventory records, provide transparency about our use of personal data, and document accountability, and lastly, streamline workflows with the UW Privacy Office. TrustArc also offers UW units insight into the risks involved with their data inventory, making it possible to manage impact and reduce the risk of harm to people when working with their data. It serves as an educational resource by guiding units through making decisions with privacy in mind, and can provide support in system procurement processes and the design of business processes. If you'd like to learn more, we encourage you to check out our privacy assessment training. Now that we know what a data inventory is and the platform we are using to build and maintain it, let's dive into what needs to be inventoried. We'll talk more about each of these items in the upcoming slide: third-party relationships, systems, and business processes. We're using this terminology because these are the names used for the 3 types of records in TrustArc. We are inventorying both existing and new third-party relationships, systems, and business processes. Units only need to create records for what your unit is responsible for or owns. At a large, complex university like the University of Washington, with its centralized and decentralized structure, many units use systems or services that are centrally managed by other organizations, such as Central UW IT or a college or school's IT unit. Or they participate in business processes that are managed by central units like Human Resources or the Office of the University Registrar. This is the case for your unit. You do not need to inventory the records that involve third-party relationship systems and business processes that you don't own. We want units to only create inventory records for what they are responsible for or own, because the data inventory is our way of documenting accountability for the risks and responsibilities associated with third parties, systems, and business processes. The units that own or are responsible for these should also be able to provide the most accurate information, and will be the units that would respond to privacy assessments if requested. Let's talk about each of these types of records in more detail. What do we mean when we refer to third-party relationships? We're talking about work-related activities with external or non-UW entities. These typically include partners, which is generally any third party that is not a vendor. A good example of this type of third party is a research partner, or perhaps agencies that you report data to or who provide data to you. Another common type of third party is a vendor, which is a supplier or service provider that delivers technology or expertise to an organization for a given business purpose. This could be the company that owns an application like Salesforce Incorporated, which owns the Salesforce customer relationship management system and Tableau. At a basic level, we are talking about non-UW entities that provide personal data to us, or non-UW entities that we share data with. In general, systems are the technological hardware, software, applications, or databases that process personal data. Examples of systems that may involve personal data include UW cloud storage, servers, computers, survey software, and web-based applications. Remember, data processing includes, but is not limited to, activities like collecting data, storing data, analyzing data, and using data to make decisions and deliver services. When we say ownership in the context of a system, we are talking about the UW organization or unit that either built their own system or that procured an instance of a system. We're not talking about the company that owns that system. The company that owns that system is the third party. Lastly, business processes are typically work-related activities that involve personal data. The term business process may conjure up specific types of activity that we don't always associate with educational and research settings, but it is the name Prestarch uses for work-related activities that involve personal data. In the university context, business processes are the main functions for various domains of work. Examples can include marketing or recruitment, registration, such as for events, programs, classes, etc., research, such as in academic, medical, and program evaluation, including the use of surveys and data collection, system management, for example, integrating flows of data between systems as a business process, reporting, credentialing, storing records, and payment processes. There are many other types of work-related activities or business processes at UW that involve personal data. Let's take a moment to review a specific example involving a system that is owned by a central UW unit. In this case, we're looking at the potential records associated with a business process of storing records. These could be academic records, personnel records, data about research participants, etc. I'll refer to this hypothetical unit as Department A. In this example, they are using the UW Google Drive as a space to store various types of records with personal data. When they go to inventory this business process, they would only need to create the record for the student or the record storage, because they are not the UW unit that owns or is responsible for the implementation and management of the UW Google Drive at UW. They simply use it. So they dissociate this business process with the UW Google Drive record when it is available. Similarly, they would not be responsible for inventorying Google Incorporated as a third party. This would be the responsibility of the unit within UWIT that manages the relationship. As a comparison for a similar business process of storing records, let's say there's another hypothetical unit called Department B. This department decided to procure their own record storage solution and opted to use their own instance of Dropbox. In this case, because they decided to set up their own instance of Dropbox for storing records, they would inventory the business process as in the example with Department A, but they would also be responsible for creating the system record for their instance of Dropbox and the third-party record representing the relationship with Dropbox Incorporated. This brief presentation gave an overview of the UW initiative to collaboratively inventory the use of personal data at our university, including third-party relationships, systems, and business processes using the Prestarch Privacy Management Platform. We also discussed the circumstances under which units need to participate, which is based on their use of personal data, ownership of the systems involved, and responsibility for third-party relationships. Your next step after this training is to learn more about the data inventory, and our additional videos as needed. Thank you for viewing or listening to this training.